What do we call the pen that receives its ink from its reservoir? What do we call the pen that receives its ink from its reservoir? Fountain pen. What is the act of jumping into the water? What is the act of jumping into the water? Diving. What does a barometer measure? What does a barometer measure? Air pressure. What do we call counting people who are living in a state or country? What do we call counting people who are living in a state or country? Census. What is the thing used for sun protection in summer? Sunscreen. What is the thing used for sun protection in summer? Sunscreen. Which one would you most likely to see in the lake, a swan or a crocodile? Which one would you most likely to see in the lake, a swan or a crocodile? Swan. How do you call someone with no hair? How do you call someone with no hair? Bald. What is the process where the color becomes lighter and lighter when exposed to sunlight for a long time? What is the process where the color becomes lighter and lighter when exposed to sunlight for a long time? Fade. What do we call a city in a country that is responsible to govern it? What do we call a city in a country that is responsible to govern it? Political capital. What is the national flower of India? What is the national flower of India? Lotus. What do people hold overhead when it is raining? What do people hold overhead when it is raining? Umbrella. What thing do postgraduate students have that undergraduate students don't? What thing do postgraduate students have that undergraduate students don't? Bachelor degree. What are the organs of the body that we can breathe with? What are the organs of the body that we can breathe with? Lungs. What is the legal document protecting someone's intellectual property? What is the legal document protecting someone's intellectual property? Patent. What do meter and millimeter measure, weight or length? What do meter and millimeter measure, weight or length? Length. A co-worker in the same institution is a colleague or a peer. A co-worker in the same institution is a colleague or a peer. Colleague. Which sense of human relates to the following words, soft and roughness? Which sense of human relates to the following words, soft and roughness? Tactile sensation. What do you call a notice of death in a newspaper? What do you call a notice of death in a newspaper? Obituary. What stellar system does the Earth belong to? What stellar system does the Earth belong to? Solar system. Which century is the year 1642 in? Which century is the year 1642 in? 17th. If you have a toothache, who will you go to? If you have a toothache, who will you go to? Dentist. What is the long speech that is spoken by only one actor in a film or play? What is the long speech that is spoken by only one actor in a film or play? Monologue. What device is used to measure the height of mountains? What device is used to measure the height of mountains? Altimeter. What is the highest position in the embassy? What is the highest position in the embassy? Ambassador. What do we call famous people? What do we call famous people? Celebrity. What is the description of events that is spoken with background music during a film or a play? What is the description of events that is spoken with background music during a film or a play? Narration. What is the frozen type of water called? What is the frozen type of water called? Ice. What do we call a picture that a doctor takes to see inside your body? What do we call a picture that a doctor takes to see inside your body? X-ray. Jack is having a presentation on Wednesday. Today is Tuesday. When will Jack have his speech? Today, tomorrow, or next week? Jack is having a presentation on Wednesday. Today is Tuesday. When will Jack have his speech? Today, tomorrow, or next week? Tomorrow. What is the device that controls electrical appliances on and off? What is the device that controls electrical appliances on and off? Switch. What do we call people who work on ship or plane? What do we call people who work on ship or plane? Crew. How do we call the young horse? How do we call the young horse? Pony. What do you call the son of your sister or brother? What do you call the son of your sister or brother? Nephew. What do you call students in universities who have not yet graduated? What do you call students in universities who have not yet graduated? Undergraduates. Whose job is making and repairing wooden objects and structures? Whose job is making and repairing wooden objects and structures? Carpenter. What do you call the substances used to speed up a chemical reaction? What do you call the substances used to speed up a chemical reaction? Catalyst. What do you call a difficult time when economic activities slow down and there are more people unemployed? What do you call a difficult time when economic activities slow down and there are more people unemployed? Recession. What is the process of moving information from a computer to the internet? What is the process of moving information from a computer to the internet? Upload. What does sub-Mediterranean refer to? What does sub-Mediterranean refer to? Climate. What do we call the animals that live in the sea? What do we call the animals that live in the sea? Marine animals. Where do weddings happen? Where do weddings happen? Churches. What is the pointing device used in a presentation? What is the pointing device used in a presentation? Laser pointer. What is the huge truck that contains oil? What is the huge truck that contains oil? Oil tanker. What day is the first day of a week which starts with T? What day is the first day of a week which starts with T? Tuesday. What is the facilities on shore that monitor ships or communicate with them by radio signals? What is the facilities on shore that monitor ships or communicate with them by radio signals? Coast radio station. What do you call something that can be carried easily, portable or cumbersome? What do you call something that can be carried easily, portable or cumbersome? Portable. What is the part of a river where it joins the sea? What is the part of a river where it joins the sea? Estuary. What do you call a person who is 100 years old or more? What do you call a person who is 100 years old or more? Centenarian. Which one in the four seasons has the lowest temperature? Which one in the four seasons has the lowest temperature? Winter. What do we call a person's move to a more important job or rank in a company? What do we call a person's move to a more important job or rank in a company? Promotion. How do you call the device that produces electricity? How do you call the device that produces electricity? Generator. What object has 3 legs and can support a camera? Tripod. What object has 3 legs and can support a camera? Tripod. What is the way animals conserve energy to survive the winter? What is the way animals conserve energy to survive the winter? Hibernation. What is the color green help for? What is the color green help for? Sight. What do we call a young dog? What do we call a young dog? Puppy. What do we call the chair a king or a queen sits in? What do we call the chair a king or a queen sits in? Throne. Where do we catch a flight? Where do we catch a flight? Airport. What do we call the headache or other sick feelings caused by drinking too much alcohol? What do we call the headache or other sick feelings caused by drinking too much alcohol? Hangover. What is a polygon of 8 angles and 8 sides called? What is a polygon of 8 angles and 8 sides called? Octagon. What do you call a short period of break between the parts of a concert or a play? What do you call a short period of break between the parts of a concert or a play? Intermission. How often is a quarterly journal published? How often is a quarterly journal published? Every 3 months. If you do something every day, you do daily what? If you do something every day, you do daily what? Routine. Where do we try on a piece of clothing in a cloths shop? Where do we try on a piece of clothing in a cloths shop? Fitting room. What happens to water when the temperature falls to 0 degree? What happens to water when the temperature falls to 0 degree? Freeze. How many years are there in a half of a decade? How many years are there in a half of a decade? 5. Does mathematics or linguistics cover the study of the relations between numbers? Does mathematics or linguistics cover the study of the relations between numbers? Mathematics. What do we call a movie played in the afternoon? What do we call a movie played in the afternoon? Matinee. What percentage is 1/5 equal to? What percentage is 1/5 equal to? 20. What is a small handheld light that usually gets its power from batteries? What is a small handheld light that usually gets its power from batteries? Flashlight. What do we call a statement made by somebody who knows it is not true? What do we call a statement made by somebody who knows it is not true? Lie. What is the part of the leg below the thigh? What is the part of the leg below the thigh? Shank. What is the largest lake in the world? What is the largest lake in the world? Caspian. What can we call the science or practice of drawing maps? What can we call the science or practice of drawing maps? Cartography. What do we call a person who accesses others' computer systems without permission? What do we call a person who accesses others' computer systems without permission? Hacker. What is the ripening agent or chemical substance to ripen fruits? What is the ripening agent or chemical substance to ripen fruits? Ethylene. What do we call a word or a group of words with a particular meaning, such as the other day? What do we call a word or a group of words with a particular meaning, such as the other day? Expression. What do we call the industry which involves designing, building, and flying of aircrafts? What do we call the industry which involves designing, building, and flying of aircrafts? Aviation. What do we call a woman who is getting married? What do we call a woman who is getting married? Bride. What is the process of supplying water to an area of land through pipes or channels so that crops will grow? What is the process of supplying water to an area of land through pipes or channels so that crops will grow? Irrigation. What do we call a scientific test that is done to discover or prove something? What do we call a scientific test that is done to discover or prove something? Experiment. What do we call a group of people watching movies in the cinema? What do we call a group of people watching movies in the cinema? Audience.
What do we call the ability to remember the past? What do we call the ability to remember the past? Memory. How many continents are there in the world? How many continents are there in the world? 7. What do we call an expert in a field? What do we call an expert in a field? Specialist. What do we call a pleasant song used for causing children to sleep? What do we call a pleasant song used for causing children to sleep? Lullaby. What do we call a person who believes that laws and governments are not necessary? What do we call a person who believes that laws and governments are not necessary? Anarchist. What do we call an assembly of listeners? What do we call an assembly of listeners? Audience. What do we call a person who believes in the existence of God? What do we call a person who believes in the existence of God? Theist. What do we call a person who does not believe in the existence of God? What do we call a person who does not believe in the existence of God? Atheist. What word do we use to describe an accident or a disease which causes death? What word do we use to describe an accident or a disease which causes death? Fatal. How many states are there in America? How many states are there in America? 50. What crime does someone commit if he or she steals items from a shop? What crime does someone commit if he or she steals items from a shop? Shoplifting. Which month has only 28 days? Which month has only 28 days? February. Which country is the Statue of Liberty in? Which country is the Statue of Liberty in? America. What is the capital letter P for in the street? What is the capital letter P for in the street? Parking. How many circles are there on the Olympic flag? How many circles are there on the Olympic flag? 5. How many lines are there in a sonnet? How many lines are there in a sonnet? 14. Which month is the Christmas in? Which month is the Christmas in? December. What do we call a person who gives treatments in the hospital? What do we call a person who gives treatments in the hospital? Doctor. Where can you borrow or read books at university? Where can you borrow or read books at university? Library.